in my first webinar, someone asked the question, well, Susan, why a matrix then? If it's this challenging and it's got this many things to rely on, why the matrix in the first place? So I thought it was a great question. Stopped me in my tracks and realized I wasn't answering that question very well. So let me answer that. So if it's all the squiggly lines, the dotted lines, all of that kind of stuff, why? Why do we do that? So organizations, and some organizations still to this day, although very few, used to operate in straight lines, right? Everybody had their own lane, okay, their own division, and they were top to bottom divisions, right? So they had everything that you can imagine, all kind of managed in that lane. Or we call them silos sometimes, or we call them sandboxes, or whatever. And so we all kind of knew that that was the direct line. What organizations realized was that that was completely inefficient, financially really difficult. It just did not make sense to have freestanding groups like that. There had to be some overlap, okay? So they started creating intersections, right? And so we have to have traffic lights at those intersections, but we started not having just lanes going this way, we started to create intersections as well that cut across divisions, that cut across regions, etc. So that only gets us so far, right? Because that's still pretty messy and confusing. Pretty likely that you're going to have some conclusions or some collisions and some fender benders, etc. So the idea behind a matrix, which I think it should be, because we talk a lot about intersections, I actually don't think we want intersections. I think we want a traffic circle, right? So the idea here is that yes, you do have different parts coming from different directions, but that they all mesh and move in the same direction. Because in the middle of that traffic circle, or in the middle of that matrix, that's where the beauty is. That's where stuff can really get done. That's where you can find the solutions that make sense for the enterprise. They make sense for local and for global. They make sense from a short-term and a long-term perspective. They make sense from an HR perspective, and they make sense from a financial perspective. They make sense from an engineering, and they make sense from a marketing perspective. So in that circle is where the enterprise-wide decisions really can be made, and products and work products, etc. That's where the beauty is. But what we don't do is do a very good job of managing the traffic flow, okay? So it turns into collisions, right? So if you think about it, we have a traffic circle in our neighborhood, right? In the middle of suburban Chicago, they put a traffic circle. And everybody's kind of freaked out about it, right? Because we're in the United States, we're not used to traffic circles. So it is a different skill, right? There's a little bit more finesse, there's a little pause, you're waiting. It's a completely different skill than stopping at an intersection, waiting for the green light, or stopping at a four-way stop and then going. It's a very, very different skill. But if you can master it, and if you can get this smooth traffic circle going, either for yourself or your organization, it's a competitive advantage. Because very few companies have it figured out, and very few individuals have it figured out, okay? So the matrix exists because organizations want the best of both worlds, okay? They want things that make sense for all different parts of the organization, all different geographies, okay? So that's why the matrix.